Welcome, everybody. All right. Hello, everybody. Hope you're doing beautifully. This is Neil with Portal to Ascension. How are you guys doing today? Excited to be here for this impromptu webinar live stream across multiple platforms. And I had this thought. We, meaning me and whoever else is my spirit guides, I guess. But we had this thought to about a week ago to do a live stream on the Three Eye Atlas, and today is going to be very interesting, amazing, hopefully mind blowing, because my mind's been blown quite a few times in the last few weeks. Information, and also trying to decipher fact from fiction. So if you guys don't know about the Three Eye Atlas comet, you're going to find out pretty soon. Go ahead and say hi in the chat. Where are you guys tuning in from? And let me know if you have not heard about this comet, if this email that I sent out today was the first time you heard about it. And, I'm going to speak more about this, but over the last few weeks, I've been looking deeply into this comet. And if you do a search on YouTube for Three Eye Atlas, you find some mainstream news outlets talking about it, even though there have been a lot. But the algorithm has been kind of taken over. I'm not saying it's in a good or a bad way, just been taken over by a lot of AI video generated videos that are 1 hour long, speaking about all these anomalies in a way where they have definite truth of what has been discovered, including things like that, for example, the Three Eye Atlas comet has 7 counterparts next to it. And one video I watched said that there was actually an AI that was put onto the comet to kind of gauge what was happening with the trajectories of these 7 other comets or whatever they are besides it. And the video explains it in a way where these are spacecraft, right? And it's probably one of the biggest videos on YouTube. It shows up almost immediately when you type in Three Eye Atlas. And then you do a little more deep research, and I can't really find the source text and the data for that. So today, what I wanted to do is present multiple perspectives where we get an opportunity not only to speak on who I would say is the foremost person really saying anything on the mainstream about this, which is Avi Loeb, who will be in with us in a few moments here. And then also we have a panelist of metaphysicians and consciousness experts, and also individuals that have had experiences with extraterrestrials, so that we can kind of gauge what this really means for the greater part of our humanity and our evolution. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and bring on someone that you know very well at Portal to Ascension, my great friend Alan Steinfeld. So let's bring him on.
Wow. Thank
Hey,
you,
Alan.
Neil. Always really good to work with you to do some exciting cutting edge shows. And what people don't understand is the name. First of all, Three Eye. They think they're talking about the third eye, and maybe they are on some metaphysical level, but Three Eye, the I stands for interstellar. This is the third interstellar object in the last few years, I think since 2017, that has entered our solar system. And people are amazed. Where did it come from? What's it made out of? What's its message? The first one was called Uameamea, which means first scout or very first scout. It's a Hawaiian term because it was discovered from the Hawaiian Observatory. There was another one that was smaller that didn't make as much news, and this one was discovered by the Atlas Observatory, as the abbreviation of whatever it is. So that's why they call it the Three Eye Atlas, because Atlas discovered it. But it's also interesting, the atlas is the top vertebrae in your neck. It's the thing that holds your head up, the consciousness. It's connected directly to consciousness. So we're getting symbolic overlays. Maybe it's just arbitrary, or maybe there's a deeper meaning to it. Let's hear what the metaphysicians' channels have to say. But also bringing Avi Loeb on is so key, Neil, because, Avi lives for this stuff. I mean, he wrote about the first one. He says, well, maybe this was just a passing meteorite, or maybe that was a ship that passed, and because he named a lot of anomalies there. So when this came along in July, Avi was so prepared. He was so prepared to look in detail. He's not saying it's this or that. He's just saying there's a lot of unusual things about this object that is not comet-like. Doesn't mean it's not, but it doesn't mean it is. And that's why he's a real cutting-edge scientist. Yeah.
Right. And and what I've noticed as well is that Avi, for example, is saying a lot more than he used to say now. He's
Yeah.
becoming more open, even though technically you could say he's been sharing a lot about the other interstellar object. But with the conversations I've seen of him now online, he's even being more certain about the fact that we're probably being visited, or something is occurring that is outside what we conventionally accept, right? And I would say that this week also, Alan, is a milestone for the evolution of consciousness, and it's because of two things. Lou Elizondo, which I know some people, they have the reservations on, including
Uh,
myself. I know that you actually appreciate a lot of his information, but
so
Lou
I'm a little
Elizondo
suspicious
actually
too.
was
But yeah.
on one of my favorite podcasts, Diary of a CEO, that is all
Oh,
about helping people become like millionaires and helping them understand um, all types of information with AI, emerging tech, finance. Is something I watch a lot, and he had him on that podcast, completely introducing him to millions and millions of people that aren't in the know. And then Greg Braden was on Joe Rogan yesterday, and
right.
we all know that Joe Rogan loves to talk about these topics, but he doesn't go into the mystical. He doesn't go into what he calls woo woo. And Greg Braden is the closest he's ever gone to it. And so,
Mm.
just these two podcasts are two of the largest podcasts in the world. Get listened to tens of millions of people. So with this comment going on, with the disclosure movement, the congressional hearing that just occurred, I feel that we're in a really important time right now.
Yeah, we are at a turning point in our culture. I mean, just the fact that the telepathy tapes got so big, these autistic non-speakers have been proven to be telepathic. If you listen to the telepathy tapes, that is a revolution in consciousness. I mean, these people who were thought to be not even intelligent, and I met one of them, I interviewed one of them, and they are not only intelligent, they are multidimensionally connected. This one guy said he's from the Pleiades. I mean, he typed that out. So, I mean, this is a revolutionary time. There's people like Chris Bledsoe calling in the ships. I was with him in Washington, D.C. We are at a real change point, and maybe this object, whatever it is a doorway into kind of the next level of our awakening. I think these celestial objects, I mean, if you listen to astrology, signify, subconscious and metaphysical information that comes into the human sphere. So whatever it is, it's creating an energetic. Maybe it's an asteroid, maybe it's a comet, maybe it's a spaceship. Whatever it is, it's already having an effect on the culture. So let's see
Exactly.
where it goes.
Exactly. And if anything, right, say that this isn't anything besides a comment, the
Uh-huh.
fact that we're having a conversation now, more and more people are opening their conscience to we could be being visited, or even taking time to entertain that thought, or listening to Fox News and having someone speak to them with all types of certainty that
Right,
chances are we could have had a visitation like this in the past, just
right.
moves us forward. I think the first step is everybody to know we're not alone. And as soon as we know that, the consciousness has now shifted for us to be open to eventually having first contact, open
Well,
contact.
we already know that we
Yep.
we know that. But yeah, I know this is a real. We're at a moment in history that is like going from an old world into a new world. And
Exactly.
I was at the congressional hearings in Washington in September. Last month, September 9th, and there were witnesses, government official, military, who talked about their ET contact in front of Congress and the world, and that was the first time anything like that has ever happened.
Right. So
So,
Abby's in the room. Should we bring him on?
okay, yes, bring
Okay.
Avi on. He's the guy of the hour.
Abby, welcome, brother.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Good to see you too.
Congratulations, Avi. You live for this time, right? This is your expertise.
Well, I prefer to live that to believe that I live for the future, not for the past or the present.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
So
you. I'm sorry you've been so attacked. I mean, Ross Coulthard was out of line by telling you, talking to other people. And it's what Francis Bacon said years ago. He said, the scientists of our days were influenced by the arrogance of ignorance. And we're facing the same thing 500 years later.
Right. I mean, people prefer to believe in various stories and to resist other stories, but the real reliable way of figuring out what is true and what is not true is by collecting evidence. And that was the trick that Galileo Galilei realized, and he was put in a house arrest. But in science we follow that, and that means a lot of work, by the way, because it's much easier to speak on social media or to be a journalist that reports about what other people are saying, than to actually do the hard work of collecting the data or interpreting it. It's hard work. I would make the analogy with playing soccer. It's very easy to express opinions about those that play in the field, but actually playing and scoring a goal is not easy, and that's why it's a difficult competition. So doing the science, cannot be compared to talking about the science, and a lot of people just talk about it. Ross is one of them, but that it should not be valued as much as actually doing the science. And I'm in the trenches. I'm writing papers every week, and even people that are popularizers of science, people that talk about how science is important, like Neil deGrasse Tyson, they're not doing science. He didn't write a scientific paper over the past 15 years. Okay, so I think the public needs to pay attention to the difference between those who talk and those who do, and that is true in any job. There are people who talk and there are people who are doing things, and those who are doing things are actually investing a lot of time and effort, and you should listen to what they say. Those who talk about the others or about what might be true, are not doing much. They're just talking.
Right. I think the difference between a real scientist, someone who investigates the unexplained instead of explaining the uninvestigated,
Yes, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And the approach that science takes is to collect data from instruments. Okay, so that's another common misconception that because we in the legal system we do listen to eyewitness testimonies to what people are talking about, but we know that there are many mistakes made. Sometimes people are put on death row when they don't deserve it, and eventually the DNA evidence demonstrates that they are innocent. So the good news about science is that it's not up to people to decide. It's not a matter of a popularity contest. It's not what we believe to be true because of wishful thinking. Many times nature is under no obligation to make us happy. Okay, we are not at the center of the universe. We knew, that obviously didn't make the Vatican happy. And moreover, we might not be at the intellectual center of the universe. That's what doesn't make a lot of people who want to feel that we are at the top of the food chain happy.
Right.
So I think as long as we allow instruments to guide us the way that FIFA decides about whether a controversial goal was real or not, they are using cameras, and that's what I'm using to figure out what is out there. And by the way, another important point is whether we say one thing or another is irrelevant to the question of whether we have a neighbor. Just imagine sitting at home and talking with your family on the question of whether you have a neighbor. Everyone may have an opinion, but that's irrelevant. The neighbor will not go away if you all agree that the neighbor doesn't exist, or vice versa. So if there is an object that all my colleagues will insist must be natural in origin, and turns out that it's technological, it doesn't really matter what they say. There is a physical reality out there, that is completely independent of what we think. And we can remain ignorant, but that will not change the question of whether we have cosmic neighbors.
Exactly. You said on a news station that you have a 60% chance that it is not a natural comet, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, we're talking about 3I Atlas.
Exactly. And
right.
what do you think what would it take for you to have like a 90% chance or be 100% positive?
Very, very easy. Either the object would maneuver, So as of now, we had more than 4,000 observations from 227 observatories around the world of this object. So we tracked its path in the sky, and it's perfectly matched to a path that is sculpted by gravity alone. So there is no evidence for maneuvering, non-gravitational acceleration. And I used that actually last week in a paper to derive a minimum mass for the object, because it needs to be very massive. We see that it loses about 150 kilograms per second, in the direction of the sun, because there is a plume of gas around it. And it's mostly in the direction of the sun. In fact, there is scattered light, which looks like a jet in the direction of the sun rather than trailing the object the way that cometary tails look like. That was seen during July and August. And given the fact that it loses mass in the side facing the sun, it's being pushed backward, away from the sun by the mass loss. But if it's sufficiently massive, then it doesn't, it's not getting moved much by this mass loss. So we calculated that it needs to be at least 33 billion tons in mass, which means that if it's a solid density, then it needs to be bigger than 5 kilometers in diameter, and comparable to Manhattan Island. And the previous two interstellar objects, Borisov, which was a comet, and Oumuamua, which we don't know what it was, they were both on the scale of hundreds of meters. So just imagine a scale of order a football field or a few football fields compared to Manhattan Island. It's a very different size. And the question is, why would the third object be so much bigger? And without us seeing thousands of smaller objects, it's at least 1,000 to up to 1,000,000 times more massive than the previous one. So that's very unusual. And my hope is that tomorrow, it passes closest to Mars within 29 million kilometers, and we will be able to get a high-resolution image of it with a high-rise camera on board the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter with 30 kilometers per pixel resolution. So we will know much more about its size. But if it suddenly maneuvers when it comes close to the sun, because that's the place where it can get the most gravitational assist from passing near the sun, and that it will pass near the sun on October 29th. So if it will come, and the Earth, by the way, is on the opposite side of the sun, so we won't be able to observe it during the month of October because the sun is between us and the object. If it comes on the other side of the sun in a completely different trajectory, the stock market may crash. Because that would mean that definitely it's technological. We put very tight limits on non-gravitational acceleration until now, and if suddenly it becomes it gets accelerated a lot, then it's clear that it has some means of propulsion, some engine. Another way to get a sense that it's technological is, of course, getting an image. So, for example, if it's bigger than 30 kilometers, we might get a few pixels and learn more about it when it comes close to Mars. So I'm very much looking forward to more data. The other possibility is that it's a mothership that releases probes that will come close to Earth or close to other planets, because it moves on a retrograde trajectory that is opposite to the motion of the planets around the sun. And that is a very good path, because it can release probes that will not need to chase planets. They will just run into planets as it passes.
Is there any evidence that it could be a mothership, or is that just something? Because there are obviously pictures, UFO craft that are mothership-like if you look at the picture. So why are you saying it could be a mothership?
Because it's a possibility. If it's technological, it would make sense. If it's a huge spacecraft that the size of Manhattan Island, of the order of the scale that Rama in the story that Arthur C. Clarke wrote, the Rendezvous with Rama, it was roughly that size. That's a giant spacecraft. All the rockets that we launched from Earth were smaller than a football field. They were smaller than 100 meters, including the fuel reservoir. So we are talking here about something that is at least 100 times bigger. And obviously, in terms of the energy needed to maneuver, it makes much more sense to release probes that will visit the planets rather than this giant object maneuvering, because that requires a lot of energy from it. But But there is no evidence, and I asked actually my research team at the Galileo project in the coming months to see if there is any unusual activity near Earth. We have assembled 3 observatories, one in Massachusetts, another one in Pennsylvania, and a third one in Nevada. And if we find any unusual activity after 3i Atlas passes near the circle of the Earth around the Sun, then you will know about it.
Are there any statistics that you've received that actually allude to it could be a natural phenomena?
Well, it could be, but for that it needs to be just happens to be a very big rock made primarily of carbon dioxide, not much water, because that's what we see in the plume of gas around it. It also releases nickel with very little amounts of iron, which you often find in industrially produced nickel alloys. Okay, so that's another anomaly.
But it could be yeah, go ahead. I mean, it could be a piece of a planet that just got broken apart. I mean, right?
No, well, not a planet, but it could have been an icy object that formed in the so-called CO2 ice line or snow line. So around the star there is a distance where you get frozen water. You get the water ice. That's called the snow, the water snow line at a certain distance, about 5 times the Earth-Sun separation, and that's roughly where Jupiter is. But then when you go farther, there is a place where you get CO2 snow, which forms at a lower temperature. And right. if this is a natural object that formed in a snow line of another star, then it would be made mostly of carbon dioxide, and that's what we see in the plume of gas around it. But then you still need to explain why it's so big and why does it get aligned in its trajectory with the plane of the planets. So I think that the simplest way to think about a natural object is to argue what my colleagues are arguing, that it happens to be large, happens to be most CO2 rich, happens to be aligned with the plane of the planets, and all of these are by chance. And other than that,
chance? If it's isn't there most gravitational pull at the solar plane, so anything coming in would be pulled to the solar? No, okay.
No, gravity is towards the sun from all directions equally. So, so indeed, the previous 2 interstellar objects, they came from very large angles relative to the ecliptic plane of the planets. And the gravity of the sun doesn't deflect this object much because it's moving at 60 kilometers per second. That's 600 times faster than the fastest race car that we're familiar with. It's very fast. And so even when it comes close to the sun, it gets a little bit deflected, but not much. It's moving almost along a straight line because of its high speed. So the sun's gravity is secondary. It's not very influential.
So what about I heard on one video that if we were to map out a tour of our solar system and go visit every planet, it seems like that 3i Atlas is actually on the same trajectory to take a very close tour of every planet. So if it's going straight and hardly being affected by gravity, so that means the planet's gravity is not affecting it too. So how is it creating a trajectory to actually visit every single planet?
Yeah, so that's a great point. And in fact, it's not enough to be aligned with the plane of the planets. You also need to arrive to the right place at the right time. And so it turns out that it arrives close to Mars. I mean, Mars moves around the sun, it takes years, right? So nevertheless, it arrives very close to where Mars is when Mars is there, okay? And that's a coincidence. So even if you adapt a trajectory that is on the plane of the planets, you need to arrange the timing to be such that when Mars comes to the right point, you are there. And the same happens with Jupiter and also with Venus to a lesser degree. Relative to Earth, it avoids Earth. So the sun is between us and this object when it comes closest to the sun. And so the question is, are these coincidences? Because then the chance is 1 in 20,000 to have these coincidences. And some people say, well, but it doesn't come close to Earth, and it doesn't come close to Venus or other planets. And so they say, well, you can't just do a probability calculation. Maybe it's by chance. But you're entirely correct. I mean, it could have had exactly the same trajectory, and if you select the arrival time randomly, you find that the chance of it arriving so close to 3 planets, as I mentioned, is 1 in 20,000. It's very rare as well.
Is there a reason if it was a mothership, they pick Mars? Does Mars have any particular significance?
Well, it depends when the journey started, because as you know, the humanity was around over the past few million years, and we weren't that different from animals until the last century. Okay, so that's when we started developing modern technologies. So at its speed, if you go back 1 century, you find that this object was roughly at 100 times the Earth-Sun separation. Okay, so it depends where the parking place is for that civilization. We just don't know what lies in the outer solar system. There may be, camps out there, or if it came into the solar system, entered the boundary of the Oort cloud, which is at 100,000 times the Earth-Sun separation. That should have happened 8,000 years ago. That's when humans started documenting their history. So it entered the outskirts of the solar system. It came from outside. 8,000 years ago, it came within the Kuiper belt, which is 100 times the Earth-Sun separation, 80 years ago. So you pick where it started the journey as to what may have triggered it.
Right.
So are you saying maybe there was a civilization on Mars when they launched it, possibly, that they wanted to check out?
Yeah, it's possible. It's well, Mars had an atmosphere and oceans, rivers, lakes of liquid water 2 billion years ago. So, that was a long time ago. But maybe they are, they don't have, they haven't visited for the last 2 billion years, and they come to see. And obviously, Mars is at a location that would have allowed it to have life. And probably there was life on Mars, but it lost its atmosphere, became a desert 2 billion years ago. So that's what makes Earth very different. But who knows what the intent is? I think it's a blind date of interstellar proportions, and we should, in any blind date, my advice is to observe the other side before you have an opinion.
Do you feel that this, I know there's been 3, I believe, that we've tracked interstellar objects in our solar system, right? But obviously we haven't been looking out into the universe for that long. So do you feel that this has been happening often? And could it have anything to do with maybe the origins of humanity on Earth? Could we have these beings here already? I know you speak a lot about the fact that we could be being probed, and individuals or beings could be checking us out to see what's going on in this part of the universe. But have you ever spent any time thinking about if they're here already?
Yeah, it's possible. We were visited many times before, but there was nobody around to document it. You see, the documentation really started about 8,000 years ago, and that's a tiny fraction. It's 1/1,000,000th of the age of most stars in the Milky Way galaxy, 1/1,000,000th. And there could have been visits, but nobody left a record that we can look at from those visits. And it's possible that we were seeded by some interstellar gardener. That's definitely a possibility. And we know so little about where we came from and how intelligence may have arisen on our planet. And we should be open-minded. It's also not necessarily the case that we are the first intelligent civilization on Earth, because any record of what happened on the surface of Earth would, let's say, hundreds of millions of years ago, would have been erased by now.
Right. So tomorrow's a huge day. It's the big day. You have to tell 3i to smile for the picture. What are you expecting to see in the picture tomorrow?
My hope is the brightest pixel in the picture will inform us of the area of the object and therefore its size. And if it turns out the object is less than a kilometer in diameter, then I would say, well, it's probably just a rock, because then there will be no issue with the size. The only remaining issue would be with the alignment of the trajectory. But if the size is bigger than 5 kilometers, it's the mass of the object grows like size cubed. So then it becomes impossible to accommodate such a huge rock, given the mass reservoir of rocky material in interstellar space. You can't deliver it once per decade. And so it would be a major question as to what the origin of this thing is. And the technological possibility will still be on the table.
Well, who's going to take the picture, and how are you going to get that picture to analyze it for the world?
So there are several orbiters around Mars, and one of them is the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter that NASA launched. Another, there are two others that the European Space Agency launched, and there is also a Chinese Space Agency orbiter. And on the American orbiter, there is a camera called HiRISE that is 0.5 meter in diameter that could get a pixel resolution of 30 kilometers. And that means that the brightest pixel will give us a very tight limit on or constraint on the size of 3i Atlas. So that's really what I hope to see. Now, it's, there is a team that operates this camera. It's the team was organized by NASA, and the principal investigator is in Arizona, and I was in communication with him. And the question of when will the data be released by the team is open. I don't know how long it takes them to analyze. It could be a few weeks, or if they are quick, they might release it within days. As soon as I have the ability to look at it or analyze it, I will do so.
Maybe, unless it's a spacecraft, a UFO or something, maybe they won't release it.
But I don't. That's not the way science operates. I think they will. If they take it, they will release it no matter what.
Well, yeah. One last question. So even if it is 1 kilometer long, the fact that the dust plume, the dust cloud is in front of it, that's an anomaly that shouldn't happen, right? It almost seems like that could be some sort of propulsion engine.
Well, it could be many things. I tried to explain it naturally in a paper, and for that we had to assume that it doesn't shed any dust, and because dust survives and then gets pushed behind the object, you should see a cometary tail. So we suggested maybe it's shedding only fragments of ice, and the ice gets evaporated, and therefore it doesn't have time to turn around and go in a tail behind the object. It's not clear what is the physical origin. This elongated feature towards the sun is at least 10 times longer than it is wide. We were just seeing it almost edge on within an angle of 10 degrees. And if you take out this geometry, which made it look not very extended on the sky for us, simply because it was pointed towards us, if you take that into account, you find that it's actually 10 times longer than it is wide, which is like a jet. So basically, there was a jet in front of it, and it could be that this is the material evaporated from the sun-facing side of the object, but it could also be something else. This is not explained except in the paper that I wrote about it.
So you're very open to it being possibly just a new type of celestial object that we haven't seen before, that it could be a natural that we have yet to fit into our cosmology of what the world is, or it could be.
Yeah. And one thing to keep in mind is, of course, the story of Troy, the Trojan horse, where everyone thought it's a completely innocent visitor, right? And then it ended up being something different. So don't judge a book by its cover. That's a very well-known statement. And we always have to consider the possibility that there is something else underneath.
if we take a picture tomorrow and we see just a standard asteroid, that doesn't even rule out the fact that it could be a probe. Because if I was an ET civilization sending a probe, maybe I would disguise the technology inside a comet.
That's possible, definitely. But
Right.
to prove the point that it's technological, we need to see either a maneuver or some signal that was broadcasted by it, or some source of energy. Like
Yeah.
if we see artificial light or some heat generated by the object, that would obviously imply that there is some propulsion system. Now, the other thing I did is a few days ago, I realized that the direction from where 3i Atlas was coming is actually the same as the WOW signal that was detected in 1977. And that's a radio signal from an extraterrestrial origin. And it wasn't clear where it's coming from. And it so happens that the coordinates on the sky of the WOW signal were within 9 degrees of this object. So the chance of a random alignment between the two to that level is 0.6%. And so
wow, that's a huge discovery, Avi. That's huge.
no, well,
For
it's if the two are related, it's huge, but we don't know that. So I recommended to radio astronomers to observe the object and see if there's anything coming from it.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
you
I'm
know,
excited to see what it's going to be, and tomorrow we get to see a little closer to see what the
Right.
possibilities are. I hope it's a mothership, to be quite honest.
Yeah, me too. I
No
mean,
worries.
I think we really we desperately need a wake up call for humanity to do better than we are doing on a daily basis. And that this would be definitely the impact of an encounter of this type.
Well, you know, Avi, I feel in a way bad for you because it's you against the rest of the conservative, astronomy community. Is there anyone supporting you in the science field and your ideas?
Well, I can tell you that my essays are read every day by 60,000 people, and so altogether more than 1 million people every month. And in addition, I get a huge amount of support from the public. There was a former pilot of the US Air Force that wrote a message to me and said, because of you, my daughter would like to become a scientist now, and she keeps speaking about aliens. And there is an artist from New York City, a very accomplished one, that made 2 bronze sculptures that he donated to my office, along with 50 watercolors. There is a car racer that contacted me a few weeks ago, and he wanted to put my image along with the image of 3i Atlas on the hood of his car in a NASCAR race that will take place in 2 weeks, and I might go there to see it.
Wow.
And there are lots of things that are happening in which artists, and I mean, there is actually a singer from the UK that wrote a song and asked me for a dedication about the work that I'm doing, and that should come out in November, I hope. And there is a book that a poet wrote about, inspired by my research, and there is a lot going on, and I meet very interesting people on a daily basis. And I for a second, I don't feel that the scrutiny that I'm going through has any significance, because many of those people are just jealous of the public attention that I get. And moreover, they are missing the point that the public would like to see how science is done, so they want to see the process of how we figure out what is out there.
Yeah.
And that is very different than the approach taken in the past by scientists, where they have a press conference and lecture to the public what the public should know. And that's why science gets the bad reputation of occupation of the elite. I don't,
Right.
So I'm changing that by actually informing the public about the work as it is being done, and the public appreciates that.
Right. Well, if you're right, we're going to throw a parade for you around the world. This guy predicted.
It's not about me,
I know.
I'm just the messenger, and there is something bigger going on. And really, I don't really care about whether I get likes or not. What really matters is, are we alone? And if not, we should know about it. And we should get inspired by a better role model, than our politicians.
Well,
Thank you, brother.
you're coming out and speaking about that possibility to the science population. We need more people like you. Thank you for your work.
Yeah, honestly, Avi, you definitely give us a lot of hope for the science community, because on some level, especially people in our community have become disillusioned with science coming up with a way of this is what the answer is, and now you need to believe it, rather than the ancient way of the philosophy of being open to new ideas.
Yeah, and the other thing is, that approach that you mentioned often turns out to be wrong. So even though the scientists say this must be the truth, and a few years later it turns out to be different. And but that, if you admit from the start that it's work in progress, and sometimes we make mistakes, and we should take risks and figure out what's really out there, which is basically the approach that the kid takes in figuring out the world. So I see science as a privilege to maintain your childhood curiosity.
Exactly. I mean, you're right, comparing yourself to Galileo, who was obviously looking at what was out there, and they said, no, that can't be. So you're saying this is possible. Why can't it be? So open mind will change the world. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Avi. Appreciate you, brother. Thank you for coming today.
Thanks so much.
We'll be staying tuned tomorrow for the image.
See you.
Yeah.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that guy is so courageous, really cutting edge, really honest, really clear. He's not saying it's this or that. He's saying, well, let's see what it is, right?
Exactly. Presenting the facts from a neutral perspective. Well, these are the things that say that it could be something else. These are the things that say that maybe it's natural. And then we can make our own judgments from that, right? So I feel that was a great foundation to start for today's conversation. You have anything else you want to share about what we just heard before we bring on the panelists?
Well, there's so much mystery to the universe. We don't even know how the Earth got water. There's some theories that say comets bombarded the Earth that were containing H2O, and that's how all the water got to the Earth. But there's so much we don't know that it's ridiculous to say, oh, we know what that is, or we know what this is. It's ignorance, and this is what he's arguing against. Let's not be ignorant. Let's stay open to 100%. What else, right? So
no matter what, like, say that this isn't a spacecraft or some alien technology, right? Just to say that it isn't. The fact is, it's operating differently from everything that we have recorded in our history, meaning that we don't know what we think we know about the universe. A great example is that it's not being affected by the gravity of planets or suns. However, it picked up speed like multiple times in just a moment. It just started going faster. So either there's some sort of intelligent design there, or the whole law of physics of you throw something in space, and unless something actually affects it, it doesn't change its trajectory or its speed. We have to throw that out. So no matter what, just by looking at this, I feel can help redefine our science.
Well, I think we are throwing the old science out, the Newtonian science, because what these UFOs that are coming here are not filling up their gas tank to arrive in our atmosphere. So we need a new science. And I think Avi and a bunch of people, and the people that are on Portal to Ascension, are bringing in a new way of looking at reality. And that's why I always like what you're doing.
I'm excited to bring on our panelists today. And as I shared in the email that you all received, we're going to have a lot of perspectives. And I'm just interested to see what has been coming through for everybody. And so today we have Lily Nova joining us in a second, Geraldine Orozco, and Krissy Colassono as well. So let's go ahead and bring them on. And I think what we'll do is, hey guys, we'll just go around and starting with Geraldine and Lily and Krissy, kind of your 2 cents on Avi, and then just take it from there, what you want to share about this.
Wow. Well, thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here. Hi, Ellen. Much love to you, Neil. So great to see you guys, Lily and Krissy. My opinion on Avi, you saying? Yeah. Avi, I've been following his work for a long time, and I absolutely love his openness and his willingness to question. As he says, science is the invitation to question, and there is no, solid truth in things. And even when we find a truth, it's ever evolving because things are changing. And I love that perspective. And so I'm very grateful to him for speaking out about these things now. I guess it's up to us. It's in our hands how we take that information and how we utilize it. So yeah, that's my opinion. Thank you.
And Geraldine, okay, actually, let's go around and have our perspectives on his research first, and then we'll go around and talk about, perspectives on Three Eye Atlas. So go for it, Lily.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I've actually really thoroughly enjoyed this conversation so far. I love how open-minded he is and, not saying no to certain things and being open to it. So I really appreciate his work, and it does take a lot of courage to speak out on those things, especially in the science field. I was a nutritionist before this, and with the science-based people, they can be very, very hard to open their minds a bit. So I just think that's incredible.
Thanks, Lily. Go for it, Krissy.
I think it's been beautiful to see these different perspectives and his thoroughness in terms of diving into what things could be. And even when looking at the plume in front of Three Eye Atlas, to be so thorough and to offer different perspectives on it is just a really valuable way of looking at things, and to be open. And especially, Neil, what you were saying before too, on how we've never seen anything like this before. This is pushing our envelope, allowing us to expand our consciousness and our thinking and our ability to receive information that is maybe contrary or different than what we have been known to understand here on Earth so far. So we have a very limited perspective. And so I think it's beautiful that he's bringing that to the forefront, and so are you. So thank you.
Well, if you women tap in psychically, because you're all pretty tuned in, what are you getting about this object, why it's here, its effect on humanity? Well, Krissy, you want to start? Because you were smiling.
Absolutely. I'd love to start on this. So my perspective on this is that we are in the age of the return of the Titans. These are energies that are coming from a higher plane of existence. And it is important to recognize that everything has an energetic signature that is then affected into this physical reality. You right now are experiencing this with the presentation of what you call Three Eye Atlas. This frequency holder contains information and coding that comes from higher dimensional planes of existence, yet the actual presentation is physical in nature and natural in form. This holds within it the ability to create shifts and changes within the consciousness of humanity, altering the state of being. Humans are going to be greatly affected by the energy that comes off of this object as it passes closer and closer. It is no coincidence the timing at which it passes through as well. At the end of your month of October, when the interdimensional energies and frequency is at its highest for you, for humanity, when you are closest to the stage of death in this autumnal season, you then receive an energetic encoding from an object passing through your space and time. These changes that will occur for humanity due to the frequency that is being brought through will be the precursor for the Great Awakening. It is important to recognize when you are looking at all of these objects that most of the contact that you will be receiving and the motherships that you will interact with are interdimensional. This is a physical energy that is coming through, and the interdimensional energies that will be in your orbit and are currently in your orbit are at a higher frequency than this object. So to understand this a little bit more, it's that idea of as above, so below. There is a very strong energetic presence that is happening and occurring, and we are receiving that. We are having that come into our atmosphere and into our cellular structures. We are on the forefront of, disclosure, but in order to get to disclosure where we're interacting more with these interdimensional beings, we have to have physical upgrades to our systems that enable us to hold the energy.
Beautiful. Thank you, Krissy. Lily, what are you getting when you tune into 3 Atlas?
I just want to say that was beautiful. You went right into that channel mode. And I'm actually picking up on a lot of similar information. So I wasn't sure what to think. I went into it with an open mind whenever I first tuned in. I'm a clairvoyant psychic, and I'm also an ET contactee. So this is a combination of like tuning into the quantum field as well as getting information and messages from my extraterrestrial contacts. And when I first tuned into it, I heard that it was a conduit. 3 Atlas is a conduit for frequency. So very similar to what she was just saying, it's acting as sort of a tuning fork for our solar system, for us. It's emitting these certain frequencies. And I was also picking up on these ancient cedar races. Specifically, the Lyrans came through very heavily, as well as Pleiadian, Syrians, and there's a bunch of different beings that I'm seeing that are involved with this sort of operation. And what it's doing, it's interacting with our sun, it's interacting with our consciousness, it's interacting with our DNA, it's upgrading us. And let's see, what else? There's also a lot of symbology that I find very interesting. So a lot of people are calling it third eye atlas. And I have been feeling, I don't know about you guys listening, but over the last couple of weeks, especially since tuning into this ship the first time, I've been experiencing a lot of like pressure on my third eye, or just these kind of spontaneous activations and upgrades where information is coming through more clear. You can really achieve quantum leaps as it is coming into the solar system. And also the Atlas chakra, which is in the back here, the matrix chakra. Some of the other messaging that I've been getting, these frequencies that are coming in and the codes that are coming in are actually helping to dissolve the veil or the matrix, if you will, this kind of illusion, and it's helping to upgrade us and transcend that. I'm also picking up on it serving a few different purposes. So the codes, the frequency, being a conduit of frequency is a big portion of it. Also, being a phase in the disclosure movement. It's getting people talking about it. Avi Loeb is talking about it, and he's helping to open people's minds. And like he said, humanity needs a wake-up call. So I think this is part of that wake-up call. And I also believe that it is gathering information, and it's kind of monitoring how we are reacting and how our physical bodies are doing, how we're doing energetically. The Schumann has been crazy recently, the Earth's heartbeat. So there's just a lot going on. So I think it's very multidimensional, but overall a very benevolent thing that's helping to usher us into this next stage of our ascension and disclosure.
Yes. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, there's just so many things that's going on in regards to UFOs, ETs, things becoming mainstream. It's almost too coincidental that something like this will be occurring. And also just one thing I want to share before we go into Geraldine, there was another thing that was observed with the Comet, is that the way it's emanating light is not the way any other celestial object has ever emanated light. So the speculation is that it has something inside of it that's creating a luminous halo that is coming from the nucleus of the comet, right? That's what the science is pointing towards. So this is just, no matter what, it's an extremely interesting situation here. And Geraldine, so I'm excited to see what you have to share.
Yeah, thank you so much. So there's a couple of elements that are really important about this. First of all, my name is Geraldine Orozco. I'm an epigenetic psychotherapist, clinical hypnotherapist, and intuitive. And I've actually tuned into this actually many years ago, 2017, when I first saw that we're going to have many visitations, many experiences of sightings of these visitors in our space. Now, what we're seeing in this object, it's not going to be the first object that we are seeing. When we talk about vision and what's in visible light, remember that we're talking about the human spectrum of light that is visible to us. And when the entire human race and the solar system can tune in to a frequency of an object that is moving through our space at a trajectory that's exactly at the elliptical plane, this is not just by chance, and it's one of many. And there are three main objects that have come in at this time, not only the Three-Eye Atlas, but the reason for this is that there's this concept of the veil is thinning. Right now, we are moving from one period 9 into the very year 1. Next year is the beginning of period 9. This is the 9th year, which is the ending of cycles. And with the ending of cycles, it really marks the ending of a vibrational frequency. We are collectively moving from one octave into a higher octave. And the move into that higher octave requires for the veil to thin, for us to have more vision of a broader spectrum of visibility for us beyond the light spectrum, which means that we're going to be seeing and experiencing more interdimensional awareness. We're going to have more interdimensional awareness. So the same is true for this space, for space and for what surrounds us, because again, the solar system, we are a fractal of the solar system. And so when we have objects entering into the body of the solar system, which we have within our own physical body, we have to take a look at what is happening. There's so much turmoil in the earth that is going to completely change from now into the year 2026. We're going to go through major deconstructions of old systems for the restructure of a new society, a new system. So this really marks the beginning, the change of that. And with this object being one of a shift in frequency in the collective of the solar system, it's also happening internally to us. Now, what I was shown actually a couple weeks ago is that what is happening with this object at the molecular level, just the structure of what it's made out of. When we talk about frequency and when we see major objects like this visible to us, it's an invitation to understand what is the frequency of the object. The frequency of the object itself is made of nickel, ammonia, carbon monoxide, along with other substances. And when you deconstruct down to the molecular level, it creates crystalline geometric forms. And the crystalline geometric form of nickel is a tetrahedron. It comes down to a tetrahedron at the very molecular level. So there is it is also a lattice crystalline structure. And so what is happening in the molecular structure of humanity is that we are changing in a way, coming into a more harmonic, we are being asked to come into a more harmonic system of light. Okay, so our human body can make up a Merkaba system, which many of you know, and the tetrahedron, which is, it's symbolized by the planets by which this object is going to pass by. Okay, so every single planet that it's passing by, it's creating a wave of activation, frequency, ripples in the universe, in this solar system. And that affects our human body. So every single one of our chakra systems is also changing in that way, restructuring at the crystalline level. So in our DNA, because we are going through a DNA activation for humanity right now, we are literally going from a 13 model into a 21 model. DNA structure, which means that we are able to access 21 dimensional layers of our body. So the invitation is that as this system is moving through our bodies, each one of those chakras represents very important elements that have to be restructured for the collective subconscious. Stability and grounding. Okay, so passing by Mars, it's the house of stability, grounding, whether we are fully embodied. And as you know, the tetrahedron being the center core of this Merkaba, we are being asked to solidify, stabilize the center system of energy of our human bodies in the material physical world. When we can see an object like this so visibly at such a density, because it's such a dense matter that we can actually see, it's a very large mass. You see, advanced beings and UFOs, they don't operate their spacecraft at those levels of vibrational frequencies. They operate in very non-physical systems, energy systems, crystalline energy systems that are more holographic. So when you see an object or a craft that is at that density, it speaks to the density and frequency that is bringing into this environment. And the invitation is really that we understand that the shift that is coming has to happen in the material world. I also feel that, this will be the first of many objects entering into the solar system, but they will be used as a catalyst for disclosure, in that a lot of, craft that has been reverse engineered is going to be released as well, and that's something that we have to pay very close attention. That this is gonna be the first of many opportunities that will be utilized to disclose very advanced technology that has been reverse engineered for a long time. With that, the invitation is to understand that the direction that is going to be taken by those disclosures of the technology, we don't want to go towards war. We don't need to incite fear. There is nothing to fear, because interdimensional beings are not based on war. They're not based on control and power. That is not the interest of interdimensional beings. That is just a lower form from the human perception. So that's something that we kind of have to be able to look beyond and not fall for that. Hopefully direct humanity away from war-like concepts when we talk about engaging with interstellar consciousness and beings.
Right. Alan, you want to say something?
Well, I like the fact that you're talking about the density of the object, Geraldine, and what that symbolizes, and how, like, maybe though it is the final call for this dense age of nickel and lead and iron, and we are moving into this next phase of human civilization that doesn't need the density of metals like that to go on. So, the first object was called the first scout, the very first scout in Hawaii, and we expected other scouts. So this might just be like a kind of movement into a new plane. I mean, things are changing in the politics of the world and everything in the way our society, AI, I mean, it's a revolution in consciousness. So we are entering a new age, and there's a messenger that can arrive from a new age that maybe we're witnessing. And when I remote viewed it for my class, I got it mostly a natural substance, but somewhere in the middle of it, there was some kind of mechanism that was not natural, that was intentional by some level of intelligence. So I don't know. There's some other remote viewers looking at that. Dick Argala and Daz Smith, they are looking at this. So remote viewers are on this, and, we'll see what this picture has to say tomorrow. That's very curious. And it's great.
Alan, has the Farside, I think they call it the Farside Institute, the remote viewing channel, have they remote viewed the comet?
No, I know the Hawaii remote viewing future forecasters did, but I don't know if Courtney Brown did. So, yeah, this is up for grabs. I'm doing a remote viewing course this weekend. I'm going to ask people to tune in. It's really exciting to get a visitor. I always like company myself. So, we got company.
So what I want to do, I feel like, Alan, are you sticking around for a while? You said I have to leave.
I should leave soon, but I'll just go ahead, do your thing. What do you?
Okay, I'm going to ask each of you a targeted question based on your responses here, and then I'll love to open it up between all of us. And if any of you want to comment on, what one of the other panelists said, please do. Geraldine, when we were texting, you were saying something about it being a lower dimensional manifestation, and now I've heard more context, so I understand. And Krissy also had mentioned that it's a higher dimensional energy manifesting in a lower dimensional construct. So maybe some sort of tool, some sort of energy that we can basically interact with on this reality. And, it's a long question here, but I know you can take it. So a lot of people say, even right now, when I heard Avi Loeb on the news earlier today, that we need to check out what it is in case it's a threat, right? And people that aren't in the metaphysical spiritual world, they're not waiting for benevolent ETs. They're projecting their own consciousness of humanity onto these beings. So could you speak a little bit on what you mean by these by the manifestation in this dimension, the level of benevolence that you've connected to, and just the overall energy of us projecting our own belief systems on visitors from space?
Yeah. So let's talk about basic laws of the universe in terms of the language of the universe being frequency. The more dense we're talking, the more physical, the more solid seeming this matter is going to be. So, but when we talk about interdimensionality and higher level frequency beings, we're talking less physical substance, less matter, more etheric, more energy systems, more light. So the higher up the scale you go in frequency, the more light you are, the less dense you are in terms of the matter. So this is very important law to understand as an experiencer, as in general, not just of ET, but just any kind of non-physical phenomena, that the more dense the substance or the being or that you're interacting with, you're going to feel that frequency on a scale of emotions, psychologically, emotionally, bioelectrically. So when you see a substance that is so dense and so heavy, you understand that it has come into the visible range of light for humanity, which is our language, which is more physical and dense. Okay, so again, as I mentioned, higher dimensional beings, they manage and they express themselves in geometric light forms. They are really much less physical than light. Much less physical and are more light and more structures of complex systems of light geometrically, based on Platonic solid systems. The higher the dimension they manifest. So that being said, another element that I'm also seeing, that with the plans that we have to terraform and bring life onto Mars, there's also a call to action universally. These higher dimensional beings are interacting with us. In reality, our planet Earth is we are surrounded by fleets of different kinds of craft all the time. Again, based on your frequency, you will be able to tune into those, and they range from wonderful frequency to very low frequency, parasitic beings. So we tend to have access to the level of understanding to that the species that are in resonance not only to our DNA, because every single human is encoded DNA. We have a range of frequency in our DNA that is a starseed lineages. We have many things. We have everything really in our DNA. So from that DNA, we interact to these different species. So when we talk about projection, unfortunately, we are brainwashed not only by government, CIA for a very long time, but we are brainwashed to believe that we are dealing with something foreign that is terrifying, that has more power over us, and that would control, kill, eliminate humanity. But in reality, that is not what these intelligences are interested in. In fact, the more intelligent the being, the more it understands interconnected systems. With the interest that we have on our planet to begin putting life on Mars, which life already exists on Mars, but there's been a lot of talk about nuclear, a very, very advanced nuclear technology being used for bringing life on Mars, not only in the craft that we're sending, but also in the terraforming. And so that causes a red flag, a very, very red flag to these other civilizations that we are related to. And I really strongly feel that this object that is coming in, I also sense that there is some form of some directional intelligence inside, but I do feel that it's quite natural, this object. And so I feel that it's here to observe and to to kind of monitor those kinds of changes. And again, we're going to have many of those that are going to come in to monitor the kind of work that we're doing. So from the human race, your second question about how we are projecting, on them, again, we have to deprogram this belief system of being victimized by any higher power. And the way to do that is by going within and expanding your own vibrational range of visibility so that you can understand how to interact with higher dimensional non-physical forms. That way you can very clearly discern the difference between low density craft technology very quickly, very easily, and very high vibrational craft. It's extremely advanced technology with which our planet has not developed yet and will not. So I will end there.
Awesome. Thanks, Geraldine. From what you're sharing about you saying that it's natural with some sentient kind of energy in there, it could be the case as well. What we're realizing now is that our galaxy and our whole universe is conscious, right? It's alive. And so this morning I was watching Greg Baden on Joe Rogan, and he was explaining how through NASA they were observing a galaxy and there was some sort of maybe a black hole or some sort of nebulous anomaly next to the galaxy, and the galaxy actually moved position away from that anomaly, like it had jets and propulsion, that it maneuvered itself. And then Joe Rogan was like, "Oh, so you think some beings did it?" And he goes, "No, I think the universe is alive." And Joe was like, "Whoa," you know. So, and what's happening with this thing is either it's sentient life doing something, or it's something that we did not put in the science books that we're now figuring out something's different. And I think it's really good that we're getting to break free from that limitation of what science has indoctrinated us with, right? Like, we need to go back to our roots. What is this? Who are we? What's outside there, right? And it seems like in this community, this esoteric community seems to be the only one really asking those questions. But it's so good to see that it's actually starting to be asked now on even not just Avi Loeb, but the news anchors that are interviewing him, talking about it. They are asking these questions too, right? So it's beautiful. All right, so let's move over to Krissy. You also spoke about higher dimensional awareness and to a lower dimensional form. I'd love for you to maybe elaborate on that. What do you mean? Do you actually get like Lily connects with the Lyrans when she's looking at this energy, which could mean so many different things, whether they're actually were the ones that were actually a part of this thing, or maybe came from Lyra. So what are you tuning into and receiving in regards to its origins and its higher dimensional connection?
So I have to just say this has been incredible to hear how interwoven all of the perspectives have been so far on what we've been seeing and getting and receiving. And what I have tuned into and felt into this is they open the channel with the concept of this being the return of the Titans. The Titans are, we'll call them the gods, these overarching energies that created the pot of energy that we exist within, the materialization of higher dimensional frequencies down into our physical reality, right? We have the shadow aspect. So we are experiencing from above this flip down into physicality through these dimensional descendant. When we are talking about this object that's flying through space, the idea being it holds a higher frequency that originates. The point of origin that I'm receiving for the energetics is that of creation, right? It is an energetic creator split, 13 energies. So we'll likely see something around the number of 13. That's the feeling that I have received from it. But these energies, they all hold the archetypes, right? So each time we experience one of these comets, these energies passing through, we are going to be met with we'll call it an esoteric sensation, right? Of it could be Hades, it could be Demeter, it could be Persephone, if we're looking at that type of God-like energy. And it's the reminder that these have been occurring within our systems for a very long time. And yes, does it go back to Lyra? Yet all of these gods and goddesses, they have parallels that lead back to these ancient starseed lineages. So there's definite Lyran sensations and feelings because they are the creators, and they help to shift and bring our physical reality into existence. But the same thing is true of, the Pleiadian energy in terms of creating Earth, right? And the crystalline structure that we have here is essentially the patterning that was materialized through descending in frequency to become more physical through each of the lower dimensions. So they created Earth through that process, just as this object was created through the process. One of the interesting things that I was tuning into earlier today when I was looking at the origin point of it and why is it coming to us now, and how did this happen? How did this release? And the idea was, I think Alan had said this too earlier, which was interesting, that it was an interplanetary expulsion So something had happened within the system that this object was in that created the momentum for it to begin to move forward. And same thing with that you had mentioned earlier, Neil, too, about these things all having consciousness, that's when you were talking about it picking up speed. This is an aspect. It was being manipulated to an extent by an interdimensional energy that caused it to push forward and move more quickly ahead of time. Just how we can be manipulated by interdimensional energies too. We experience our reality based on what is happening on the higher dimensional planes around us. So that's also affecting our energy, our physical being, our essence. And so we are responding to that, just as this, three-eye atlas is. So I hope that helps to dive
Beautiful
into
share.
that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. You said from creation, because as soon as you said that, first thing comes to mind is the Prism of Lyra, and one of the original OG galactic history stories of the Lyran creation energy. So it's perfect segue to Lily. So if you could maybe explain some more of what you're receiving in regards to the Lyran energy. And I know I've heard a video of yours where you said you tuned in and you felt this whale-like frequency, right? Speak on that. And then the three-part question: can humans meditate as well and channel and receive transmissions from the Three-Eye Atlas? How could we do that?
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I originally, when tuning into this, I felt kind of a few different races that kind of came through, but then the Lyrans really came through and kind of like dominated it. And there, I could hear them so clear. And literally right after tuning into them, like the next day, I saw a fleet that I was able to film, and I felt their presence there. That video is on my YouTube channel, but that was just a really awesome kind of confirmation. And I've been having a lot of interactions with them since this. So, the original divine blueprint is a lot of the message that the Lyrans are sharing. So they're one of the creator races. They are the original humanoid race or species in our galaxy. Literally, we all stem from Lyra. So it's really interesting that it's like we're kind of like circling back to home, or it's symbolic of us and quite literal of us beginning to remember who we truly are as these Lyrans, as well as other ETs and cosmics creator beings are entering in and sending these frequencies in. It's like we're starting to remember where we came from and who we truly are. And you can experience amazing heart openings through this, amazing downloads, amazing upgrades. Whenever I was speaking to the Lyrans, I began feeling a tingling down my spine, very real physical sensations. And they said that the frequencies that are being brought in through the ship and through their presence, and also what's going on internally, because as below, so within, or as within, so below, so without, as above, so below, right? So what's happening internally is also happening externally. So, I just started feeling this amazing energy going down my spine. They said we are receiving the energy from this, and you can literally feel chakras beginning to activate or upgrade, which some of the other guests have been speaking about also. I feel like we're getting a whole system reboot. So the Lyrans have been coming through very strong with this. It's been a very wise, ancient energy. And your next question was, can people connect with this? Absolutely. I actually encourage people to do that, sit in meditation. And they're notioning towards the heart right now. So focusing on your heart space will amplify this whole process. And we just have so much manifestation potential right now. Really, anything that you set your mind to, I think you can achieve very quickly right now through this window. So you can sit there in meditation. You can focus on your third eye, focus on your heart expansion, and then leading into the next question. The third time that I tuned into this to see what information and messages came through, instead of trying to connect with any beings, I decided to set my intention to connect with the ship directly. And this actually really surprised me what happened. I was able to connect with the ship pretty immediately. I saw it in my mind's eye, and I could feel that it was conscious. It was literally alive. It was intelligent. And the energy that I felt from this ship felt like that of a whale or a dolphin, which they're also conduits of frequency, right? Whales and dolphins, very, very intelligent. I believe they're also grid workers, helping to assist with the grid and assist in our ascension. And it's like 3i Atlas is doing the same thing as it's coming in, tuning our solar system, tuning us, bringing in these codes. And I immediately felt this like expansion in consciousness. I felt immediate peace and bliss, and it was just immediately high vibe. And yeah, so this ship is a living thing, and you can try and connect with it and see what happens.
I am very, very excited to see what we're going to see tomorrow and what's going to happen over the next few months. And what I want to do now is, you know, I thought that our belief systems would be much more different than they actually are. We have a lot more in common than I thought, including with Avi, because I was listening to so much Avi, and then today I listened to him saying it could be a threat. So I wanted to kind of talk to him about that a little bit. But I realized if you're not in this metaphysical world where you aren't talking about the Pleiadians and benevolent ETs and knowing that we're going through a cycle of consciousness where we're elevating into a new age, if you're not into that, then you're just going to, think like, if somebody's visiting us, why would they be here? We need to make sure that we know what's going on, right? So we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater, and we can't judge people for having their beliefs if they're not in the world that we're in. So, but it's very interesting. I did feel that there would be some more variation here. So what I would love to do now is just to have each one of you go again and maybe comment on everything that you heard today. If there's anything that someone else shared that you want to go in a little deeper, or if there's anything around this that you want to share some more off. So let's start with you, Geraldine.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been amazing to hear everybody's perceptions and what they're picking up. It's very beautiful. I really, when it comes to it being a threat, that is actually my concern, is that it is taken in the direction that this is something that we have to fear, or that it is a malevolent beings. And I kind of, from my humble perception of being an experiencer and an intuitive and connecting with many different races, and also hosting support groups internationally and listening to people, not only through hypnotherapy, but just experiencers that are recounting their experiences with interdimensional contact, it's pretty clear to me at this point, after I guess now 15 years of working very closely with experiencers, that the intentions and frequencies of beings are pretty clear. And they're, if they wanted to take over the planet or connect with us, it would have happened a long time ago. And of course, we do have parasitic consciousness that exists within us and is around us. Beings are already living here on Earth with us. They live within the Earth. They live on Earth with us as humans. There are shapeshifters. There are many beings that are with us interdimensionally. We have them in our DNA. We are star seeds. So this is a perception that, we're a very young civilization. We need to learn that, and we're going to be taught that in the next 10 years pretty strongly, for the actual visual contact of beings, which I think is coming. I do feel that because the veil is thinning, this is just one layer, and it's going to be many layers that will be lifted until we understand that we are very deeply interconnected with star families for many centuries and generations. So the concept of this being something that we need to protect ourselves from is going to be directed by the government in order to push agenda to control the skies, control what is being seen, control what is not being seen, to slow down this ascension, which is inevitable. The veil thinning is inevitable, and many things have been done over the past 10 years to slow that down, because how to see is through our frequency. frequency. So when you stall human frequency from internal self-trust, from the ability to connect with others, connection, for example, the severing of connection in humanity is how you slow down the connection and visibility into higher spectrums of consciousness. So this is something that we need to pay close attention to, and there is nothing to threat, and the need for control of air stations, connection to the stars, interdimensionality, the implementation of AI and artificial intelligence into our genetics will be the destruction of the human race. And I think that is a potential lineage that we're going to go down, a timeline that we could go down. So I think that with everything that Avi Loeb has been sharing with us as well, incredible that he allows himself to have the invitation to think that it's a mothership, for example. And we do have that potential. There's many motherships that surround the planet Earth, which are at different frequencies. So I think that it's a seed that is being planted in the subconscious mind of humanity for the next steps, and it's necessary. But as we're here, the invitation is not to see it from fear, but the more you open yourself up and learn how to master your emotional fears, your parasitic aspects of yourself, you'll be able to handle the unknown, whatever it is, in a more stable way. And I really feel like this is the invitation that this object is really making us process in our mind as we think, what is it,
Yeah, well said. I feel that it is inevitable. We are waking up. So many ancient civilizations spoke about this time. Some of them even have the dates, and we're right on track with this whole thing, right? So it's just beautiful. Just people becoming more and more open to the fact that we're not alone is just a stepping stone into the right direction. And everything that they do to incite fear or threat, from my observation, my research has backfired. All it does is wake more people up.
Yes.
To the truths, even if they have a pundit on the news that's parroting UFO things from a military perspective that might be lying, not going to name names, but if that's the case, a lot of times all it does is just wake people up to more of an idea that, wait a second, we could possibly not be alone.
Yes, and to question, right? To question.
Exactly. I'll get to you, Krissy, right now as well. But another thing that happened, because the Greg Waden interview was epic. Like, another thing that happened was he broke down why Darwinism doesn't work. And he broke down the science of how we have no fossil records of the evolution of humanity, and how our chromosome got fused in a specific way that doesn't happen naturally on Earth, right? 15 million views, right? Most of those people had no idea about that information. I knew Darwinism was breaking down, but I didn't know the science of it, and I'm in this world. You know what I mean? So it's just like, even my dad said to me 10 years ago, my dad sat me down and he shouted at me and said, "What's up with all this alien stuff?" And because he Googled my name and he found all this alien stuff, right? And then about a year ago, my dad said to me, "What came first, the baby or the human?" And I'm all, "I don't know." He goes, "Just think about it. You can't have a baby by itself on Earth, because who will take care of the baby? Chances are someone put us down here fully intact as a human, and maybe there were beings from another planet."
Exactly.
10 years before, he was like judging me, you know what I mean? So if that's my yardstick to measure the awakening, how awake my dad is becoming.
That's amazing. Keep us informed.
I'd love to get your perspective now.
So I have to also mirror what Geraldine was saying about the fear that some of this rhetoric is instilling within people. And it's very challenging, but it will ultimately cause the shift for more and more people to awaken. I think there is a detrimental effect happening within, let's call it social media, where we have channelers and other psychics and mediums who are claiming to connect with the energy of the rock, the Three-Eye Atlas. Sorry for calling you a rock, but that are connecting with it and saying that there are beings upon this ship, right? And without informing people that they're seeing it at a higher dimensional frequency, without informing people that it's not in this physical third dimensional fourth density reality that we are in. And that can be really off-putting and challenging for a lot of people to understand, and it creates fear. So I agree 100% that at the end of the day, this is going to bring us all back to ourself, right? And finding the truth within ourself. And so we are all working towards learning that, awakening to that energy. Yes, and we are really, truly multidimensional beings that are learning to anchor in our light. I love how Geraldine was also talking about the structure of the energy that is coming through, the nickel, the tetrahedron. We exist upon a holographic net. Our structure is made through these platonic solids, and we are in the process of crystallizing our light bodies so that we can ascend into sixth-dimensional reality and physicality, which is essentially the being of light that we've always meant to be, but we just kind of descended down here out of curiosity, and now we got to get back up. So in this process of having to work through the idea of there being a ship, their idea of there being aliens and extraterrestrials, we are starting to awaken to our own multidimensional self, our own multidimensional consciousness, and begin to anchor in our higher self frequency, our higher self energies. And that enables us to then use our discernment to channel our own spiritual gifts, to channel energy ourselves, and then in the physical aspect of it, begin to crystallize that light body, begin to crystallize our Merkaba systems. We are at the stage right now, we are in the beginning phases of humanity being able to do this. But there are a lot of people in the spiritual space right now who are going to be able to physically ascend out of this third density, fourth density reality after death and experience the next stage of our evolution. And it's a beautiful, beautiful perspective. And I'm very excited for everyone to experience it. But we all do have to have these wild unveilings, call them, and these shakeups that are currently happening. And Neil has talked about this many times, about the idea that the dark and the light work together to create ascension, to help us move forward, to help us elevate and expand. And we're all working back up to source. And this is an instance when we're looking at the effect of this object on humanity, on the programming that we're being bombarded with in terms of fear-based rhetoric, that it ultimately brings us to the light. It brings us to our inner knowing and to back to ourselves. So I think we all have to remember that we have the power within us, and it's all turning on and waking up.
100%. Reality isn't as real as we think it is. There's so much more to this reality than the physical element. If anything, when we look at the code of what we're made out of on the quantum level, it's just all frequency. It's all code, right? And I agree, we're waking up to such a greater understanding of what it means to exist in this hologram illusion. I don't know, but it's an interesting and beautiful ride. The uncovering of the greater truth of who we are, stepping in to the wilderness of the cosmos. I like to say that, Star Trek was wrong. We're not going to the final frontier. Earth is the final frontier. This is the final frontier. We're all here trying to figure it out. And I love, that's the reason why I brought you all on, is because disclosure to me, no matter what it is, from a comet to a UFO, all starts from inside. It really goes into the inner work. How do we release out traumas? How do we be non-reactory? How do we hum from a place of inner peace? Have conversations on that level? How do we not project ourselves and our own traumas on other people, right? And maybe these are the different things we need to conquer, so to speak, so that we can have face-to-face interactions with ETs and not project ourselves onto them or not act out onto them, right? And I know, Lily, you do a lot of this work on your channel. So I'd love for you now to wrap it up. I have one last quick question after this for everyone, but based on everything shared here today, and then also, where do we go from here? What's next?
Well, I love everything that you just said, and I love how it really quickly, the conversation went back inward, because really that is the key. And 3i Atlas was emitting this emerald green color, which is the color of the heart chakra, and that is the key. And why I think some people are picking up on different things, or maybe projecting onto 3i Atlas and what this could be, and the fear mongering and stuff like that. I think it's also acting as a mirror. and it's showing us what we need to work on, what we need to face, but it's also showing us our potential and how quickly we can move mountains personally and outward, what we can co-create, what we can achieve, our highest potential, what we were meant to be. So I think that's really beautiful. And I think this is just a nice big step into the next phase of disclosure and awakening. And I'm super excited to continue to feel the energies, especially as it moves behind the sun. I believe that will be an amplifier, and who knows what's going to happen over the month of October and beyond.
Yes, and 100% going within, and then also what we're meant to be, what our full potentials are. Even us in this esoteric world that can speculate on the city powers, as they're called in India, probably can't even scratch the surface of what is possible once we realize we're the coders of the matrix, and we're no longer a victim to the matrix, but we realize we are the ones creating it. We become Neo. We start bending and dodging bullets, you know?
Right. Wake up, Neil. Wake up.
All right. So I'm going to take a pause here because, usually at this time, a lot of people start dropping off the show. So I want to let everybody know just where you can find everybody before we go into the last question, but stick around for the last question. So Geraldine, everybody's descriptions and everybody's, YouTube channel is linked in the description. Geraldine Orozco, you can just search her on YouTube. You'll find her. Krissy has Enlightened channels. It's also there. Lily Nova Starseed, she's also in our comments. So check all of their channels out. And, as soon as I decided to do this, the three individuals that you see in front of you right now, besides myself, were the first ones that came to mind. And I reached out to them within minutes of this. And I felt like I was guided for a reason to do that. Also, a quick shout out to the Fifth Kind in the chat room, and also Journey to Truth podcast. Fifth Kind, best YouTube channel on earth. Honestly, there's so much good stuff there. Journey to Truth podcast, really great podcast, one of my favorite ones as well. So tune into those guys. And Portal to Ascension is not just on YouTube. We have a podcast, Portal to Ascension Radio, on all platforms. Check it out. And just one last announcement. I'm really enjoying doing this. This is the second time we did this for the Q&A for our documentary last week. And so what we're going to do is we're going to do this next week for the Boogosphere. Okay. We're going to do a Boogosphere stream. And then the following week, we're going to do, you guys might not have heard this, but in 1990, they found a skull that was not Homo sapien. It was 1 million years old. But lo and behold, we're in the age of the future now, and we have AI. And guess what species this 1 million old skull belongs to? Homo sapien, which changes the game, guys. 700,000 years older than we're supposed to be. Okay, insane. So it's like I was waiting for like a decade, saying like one day I think they're going to find something older, and they found in the 90s, but they didn't have the technology till now. So this to be said, how does this tie into everything we're doing here? Just another aspect of us realizing the antiquity of humanity and the fallacy of science, and how when we discover one thing, we're like, this is it. The last skull was 300,000 years old. Therefore, humans could not have existed before this time, So it's a really beautiful time of discovery, and I'm excited to be along the journey with you all, and we'll be doing streams like this, and you'll get an email out as well on the day, okay? On the day, just like we did today. All right, so last question. Now, normally I'm not into predictions. I don't like predictions because I've been in this world since 2001. And again, I'm not going to name names, but too many people said there's going to be a sighting over this, at this time, there's going to be this going on. Disclosure is going to happen on this date. The amount of years that I've heard this is the year of disclosure has completely jaded me from this whole concept, right? But with that being said, I think we're on the precipice of something more than ever. I feel even what's happening with the government and some of the whistleblowers saying that in 2027, everyone on the planet is going to know we're not alone. Soon after that, within a couple of years, we're going to have open first contact. Now, you don't have to go with dates if you don't want to, but just gauging the energy right now, I'm pretty sure it's going to happen in our lifetimes. But what are you feeling over the next few years? How is disclosure going to unfold? Is there a certain time where you're tuning in and thinking that we're going to have, one, either an awareness we're not alone, and two, open interaction with extraterrestrial beings? So let's go with Geraldine, then Lily, and then Krissy.
Thank you so much. So, yeah, I've received this information pretty clearly for me. So I'll share what I have seen. From now until 2027, we're definitely going to have major changes and restructuring of the old system, and with that goes down systems of science, how we see science, which is based on a new understanding of reality. That being multidimensional. Okay, so our whole understanding of everything being 3D and human, and that's it, is going to completely come to an end as a result of many well, I have a reservation saying this, but there will be many occasions where the government and these systems will use objects in the sky or other kinds of phenomena and say that we are in danger and that there will be false ET invasions, attacks, things like this. I feel that very strongly for the reason of the track record of how the government has created military interstellar system. And so that is very important to pay attention to. And we have a lot of reasons for that. The trajectory of human race going to Mars is already on the calendar. There's already plans that's already in the works. And we have to pay very close attention. The intention that the humans want to do in order to terraform and create life on Mars is going to create a disruption in the system, in the galactic system, in the solar system. And so we have to try to be as mindful as possible and not use destructive technologies like nuclear technologies for any reason, here or there. The ETs and those advanced beings are very adamant about how that creates a complete ripple effect in the entire system of the field. So we don't want any of that kind of interference. And so there will be visitations from higher consciousness to help deviate away from that. And also through AI in order to revert to other potential solutions. I feel that advanced technologies will be presented by the government, but a lot of UFOs that you think that you were seeing, ETs, are not going to be UFOs. It's going to be terrestrial technology. And trust me, advanced interdimensional beings you can't possibly match that level of technology because it's based in consciousness. Okay. And the way that they operate their craft is a neural network connected to the consciousness of the navigator. Our technology will attempt to create that and mimic that through artificial intelligence, but it will never come close. So we need to pay close attention to that when we start to see craft that is shooting at us or creating war-like scenarios. Please understand that is not interdimensional contact at all. That's also not aliens or interdimensional beings. So this is something that will happen several times from now until 2027. And from 2027 to 2037, we're going to see an entire dismantling of the education system as a result of disclosure, which will be presented to us. A lot of new discoveries will be made in South America, which will rewrite entirely the trajectory of the history and how the history has been written, the origins of man, and also the concept that we come from Egypt will change as well. And that's something that I look forward to seeing how that develops. But I think that many old ancient civilizations will be now presented to society from now into 2037, and that will then, the entire concept of starseed lineages will then anchor into the earth mid 2026 until 2037. And this is where we will enter into another civilization because we're entering period 9. So this is what I strongly see for humanity. I think that in addition to that, genetically, we are changing into an entire genetic structure. The way that our DNA is expanding holographically, it's going to be expanding into a more complex system of light. So we are becoming interdimensional. And so that will be the disclosure. The real disclosure will come through the major activity that the majority of humanity will be experiencing in their dream state. So a lot of education is needed for that. And then finally, in terms of technology, in order to avoid additional illnesses and disruption of genetic advancements for us, the activation of our DNA naturally, we have to avoid the use of genetic engineering that is destructive to our entire core system. Okay, so a lot of genetic medicine is going to be advanced, and a lot of high dimensional beings have shown me that the real technology that needs to come into play now is holographic healing, vibrational healing at the genetic cellular level. That is absolutely needed at this time, and that will, a lot of you are going to channel those kinds of healing modalities in the coming years, and that will also participate in the disclosure movement. So that's what I see.
Whoa. Thank you so much for all that. There was a lot of gold in what you shared. Hope we can have a whole 2-hour conversation just on all that. I'll just pick one. The South America thing, the Amazon, one of the 2 least excavated places on Earth.
Yeah, just
And
wait.
they were trying to nuke Mars or they may be still trying to do it because they think that it'll create a global warming effect and it'll melt the ice caps, therefore putting water in the atmosphere, kickstarting the whole thing. But they lack the consciousness that the nuclear energy rips the code of the simulation. And what you're doing is you're permeating through all other dimensions, affecting other beings, So it's just, thank you so much for sharing all of that. But everything you shared just gives me more hope that there's so much beauty in store for our future. It's exciting. So let's go over to you, Lily. Oh, one real quick, actually, Geraldine, share where people can find out more about you and what you have going on. And also you and Lily and Krissy, once you're done, please do the same.
Yeah, thank you. You guys can find me at GeraldineOrozco.com and my YouTube channel at Geraldine Orozco. I talk a lot about all these things and how to activate your holographic system, essentially. And I do hypnotherapies and have an international experiencer support group at hybridmother.com, so you can visit that as well. I'm going to be on the cruise to Turkey and Greece with Neil. I'm super excited about that, and I'm very grateful for your support. Thank you for being here, guys. Love you so much. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Geraldine.
Thank you.
Lily, over to you.
Yeah, so contact is already happening with so many people right now. So I see that picking up a lot over the next few years and beyond. A lot of new star seeds coming online. And I do believe that there will be more bigger sightings and things to come over the next few years. One of the last times I checked about open contact, like boots on the ground, I received the answer in the 2030s. So I do believe it will happen in our lifetime. But I would also just encourage, you can make contact now. There are tons of people who are making contact. You just want to set, good intentions to, if you feel called to connect with your cosmic family of the highest love and light, or even just to cultivate contact with yourself, with your higher self through the heart space. I think that's really the best place that we can be focusing right now. And you'll be amazed by the amazing things that start to occur around you if you put in the effort, if you work on your frequency and keeping your frequency higher. And as it's raising, the veil is thinning. You're able to perceive more of these things because I think Geraldine said, like she said, and I've received this same message, and sometimes I'll see them, but there's ships in the sky, at all times. So they're already here. We also have inner earth beings. They're just fifth dimensional or above. So they're occupying a higher dimensional space. But as we raise our frequency, we can be able to perceive and interact with these energies and beings more and have very beautiful, benevolent experiences. So yeah, I believe we have a lot of disclosure coming up. We also have I have picked up on more false flag type events. So just be wary of the fear mongering. That just puts you in a lower frequency that tries to cut you off from your heart space. Don't allow that to happen. And we've got a lot of cleanup happening on the planet right now. I think before we can have actual face-to-face contact openly, I believe that there are a lot of people, and even in some levels of our government, who are having contact with these beings now, or people who are in the know are already having contact. But yeah, I think we just have to, we're in a big cleanup stage right now, clearing out certain negative factions who would try to block these technologies and kind of censor all these things. I think a lot of that's being cleared up right now, and that's also paving the way. At the same time, we have an alchemical process happening within us. We have our cosmic families in the skies. Like, there's just so many things going on.
So many things. I like that it's like we're doing spring cleaning, collective spring cleaning,
Yeah.
and things are coming to the surface too, things that have been locked deep within that we haven't wanted to confront, the atrocities of society, and that needs to be swept away as well so we can move
Right.
forward.
Exactly.
Krissy.
So this is an interesting topic, for my opinion, on disclosure and when it's going to happen and when we're going to really experience it. We are, as Lily said, already in contact. We are already experiencing it. When I was channeling earlier, that is contact. There are many people now who are coming to terms and understanding that they are hybrid beings, right? Many of us have had our genetics manipulated energetically to turn on different aspects of physical expression of our DNA, which enables us to hold higher vibrational frequencies and to hold soul level energy of higher intelligence, we'll call it, within the physical body. So many people are already actually those boots on the ground, right? We have people who are going to be coming out more publicly about this, about being hybrids. I think that that's going to be some of our first true experiences with contact and disclosure of beings being here. We're also, as Geraldine said, and Lily too, talking about the interplanetary beings, the interterrestrials. Those are going to be our segue, right? We've had a lot of people talking about, call it Bigfoot, Sasquatch, these different earth-based beings. They're here and around us. We're going to see more sightings, more proof of these interactions, and that's going to be how we get to the point where, as a collective, we can begin to understand the interaction with higher dimensional beings in terms of aliens as we see them. The thing that's important to remember is how physically challenging it is to actually interact with a higher dimensional being. If a person is not elevated in consciousness, has distortions within their physical field, within their light body system, if it hasn't been fully activated. Right now, we have a lot of kids most of the children being born have light body systems that are fully online. But people who are, older, who are over the age of 40, not everybody has their light body systems fully on and cleared and moving, right? So they're in this process of how do you have a higher dimensional being interact with that? Well, you can become very ill. There is the physical effects of a human body interacting with a higher dimensional frequency. It is so jarring. It can create extreme disorientation, physical illness, muscle cramping, and extreme disorientation. So to be able to actually interact with these beings in their physicality, and for them to actually come down into physical form, it takes a lot of training, right? It takes a lot of training for them to be able to do that. And it takes a lot of physical training for us to be able to receive that energy too. This is why a lot of times when we talk about abductions and as they're coming down into physicality, you see it starts with a bright white light, and then you start to see the form come into the picture, right? So they're coming down into density, and we have to meet them somewhere too. But this is why most people can't remember it, because your body can't physically handle that energy that's coming through. So in order for us to actually get to that point, that stage where we can interact with those beings, I think it's going to be quite some time, most likely within 10 to 15 years before anybody can really be seeing this. I think we're going to see holographic projections of beings that we can interact with to an extent, but we're not going to really be able to experience physical interactions with these higher dimensional energies that we are referring to when we're talking about quote unquote aliens and interdimensional beings.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even though I want it to be in 3 to 4 years from now, I'm thinking 10, 15 years, because also really like religion in general, what religion is and how indoctrinated people are, that is being in the process of being redefined in many ways, where people are opening up to different things. I'm here living in Colombia, meeting a lot of Catholic people that I talk to about extraterrestrials, and they seem to be pretty open to it actually, and having good conversations around it. Except for one person I went on a date with, she said, "I don't believe in astrology," and I walked out of the restaurant. I was like, no, I didn't walk out. I left later. But still, I'm just saying, like, what I'm noticing is that even though we're so ready, there is so many people so indoctrinated in one way in this path that there needs to be a lot more things that shake them up for them to finally lift those covers from their eyes, right?
Right.
So it's a slow but sure process. All right, so I'm going to do a little closing here. Anybody want to share anything else in closing before we end for today? I think Lily, you didn't share where people can find out more about you.
Oh, no, yeah. Yeah, you can find me on my website, lilynovacontact.com. I'm also very active on YouTube. I usually do lives on Sundays where I'll do kind of like psychic updates, galactic messages, or energy readings, stuff like that, tuning into current events. I've been covering a lot of 3i Atlas, and I've got a lot of activations on my channel as well, where I can help you like connect with your star family or do different healings and DNA activation and things like that. And my YouTube is Lily Nova Starseed. So you can find me there on my website. You can contact me through. And I also have, if you want me to share some upcoming offerings.
Please, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, awesome. So I have a Lyran activation in honor of 3i Atlas coming up on October 18th. So if anybody is interested in that, it's going to be a session working with the Lyrans, working with DNA, helping to work with the chakra system, and just really working with clearing, transcending, and upgrades. So that's coming up October 18th, and you can sign up for that on my website.
Beautiful. And Krissy, I don't think you shared either.
I didn't. I am Krissy. I'm a channeler, and I help people step into their spiritual gifts. So I do channeled readings as well, but I teach you how to channel. So I have a school that's called the Channeling School. We have our second cohort of initiates coming in, and it starts November 24th. I have a few other workshops coming up as well. Angels and Demons will be on October 9th, and that's a donation-based workshop. I'll also be in Sedona on the 25th and 26th of October doing an in-person channeling workshop. So if you're looking to open up and learn how to channel these energies yourself, I will be there, and I'll be doing it in conjunction with David Starfire, who does all of the meditation tracks for Ram Dass. So we'll be having a whole weekend event where you'll be able to learn how to channel, access these energies, and then go through sound healings, journeys, and have a beautiful time. So we'll also be in Egypt in January, and it's going to be a transformative experience. It's all about anchoring in your true self and really finding home.
You guys are very busy, huh? We're all busy. And
Yeah.
thank you so much for sharing, guys. And again, all the YouTube links are down in the description. So to bring it back home, this is how we're going to close out. I'm just going to list off some anomalies because I like to do conclusion paragraphs. I'm just going to list this out again just to kind of drill home some of these anomalies. Stay tuned tomorrow. High resolution image. Let's see what we find, right? And with Portal to Ascension, there's 3 websites on it. I think my internet dropped for a second, but I'm good, right? You guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you now. Yes, you're good.
Okay. I think I'm back. Okay, cool. So I've shared this a few times, but I just took over ownership of the New Living Expo. NewLivingExpo.com has roots in 1982, was the first spiritual expo ever created in the US, or maybe the second in the world from my research. And they started with Whole Life Expo. I took it over. 2001 is when they became New Living Expo. And it's 3,000 people, 8 simultaneous rooms, 145 vendors, April 17th to 19th next year. And it's going to be epic. Guys, I'm spending like 6 hours a day, every single day of the week, just producing this thing. Got some amazing speakers coming. Geraldine will be there. Krissy will be there. Lily, that was the event I was going to email you about. So I'll be contacting you about it too. I'd love Lily to be there as well. And it really gives us a foundation to just grow, not only continue a legacy, but also a foundation for people to gather as we awaken. And it's in San Rafael, California, which is just over the Golden Gate Bridge, 40 minutes from Oakland. So that's one thing I definitely want to direct you to. Now, if you're new at Portal to Ascension, portal2ascension.org, we got everything there. You sign up, you get 2,000 hours of free presentations. Don't worry, they're categorized very well. You can search by speaker, you can search by topic, and our website has over, at this point, 25,000 hours of content, presentations, documentaries. So tune in there if you want to, hear about everything that we got going on. Sign up for our email list. And if you guys are located in Athens, Greece, come to the Mystery School at Sea Cruise for sure. But if you're located in Athens, Greece, Amsterdam, or near Glastonbury, my friend Chris and I, we're going on a multi-sensory music tour where we're going to be performing hip-hop, poetry, with fractal geometry, and just a full-on multidimensional experience starting next year. And that's at healthemusictour.com. So I know it threw a lot of websites at you, so I'm going to put some up here. healthemusictour.com. Everything else we're doing is at portal2ascension.org. And my friend Chris, who I just mentioned, we are going to be coming out. We're going to be doing the Boogosphere stream next week together on here. Same format, same platform. I think I'll also contact a few people to come on that. And in case you guys don't know, the Boogosphere, actually right where I'm at in Colombia, it crash landed over here. And so some people said it was just a drone. Some people said it was some advanced ET craft. But guess what? The Boogosphere has resin in it from when it was originally put together. And the resin is organic material, and you can carbon date organic matter. And it is 12,500 years old. Okay? 12,500 years. So we're going to go over the research on that. But what's crazy is that was the fall from the last golden age into the downfall into the lower ages, 12,500 years ago. Also, the end of the Younger Dryas period, when we had asteroid impacts and maybe a comet impact that ended the last ice age. So if there was an advanced civilization on the planet at the time, maybe they put up this ark, maybe they put up this sphere that held onto the information, or maybe they're in Earth now and they're observing us, because not only did there was one Boogosphere, but another one was found 2 weeks ago as well. So we'll do a stream on that. And then the following week, we'll do a stream on the skull found in China. So a lot of amazing, fun stuff coming in store for us all. So I'm going to play a song now in closing. We're going to play a Dragon Light language hip-hop song with some amazing visuals. And I just want to say thank you so much, Lily, Geraldine, Krissy. Thank you for being here and being a part of this. I think this went really well. This is really fun to be here with you guys. And let's just stay tuned and see what's happening. But as you guys know, everybody tuning in, we're in for an epic ride. It's going to be some amazing things unfolding. So thank you all once again. And we're going to go ahead and play this song and catch you guys later. Take care, everybody.
Om Bhurbhava Swaha Tatsarvitarvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo yo na prachodayat Intavoa katianoa Iamona watina kiamupa Ufania katianoa tina Ukampalat kia kumpalaya Inamuha tina kaniam watatsao Iakatuwatiana Iamakatu Inze wakala kumpali atara kumpala road goes on for generations. The travelers will disperse their light amongst all the willingly incarnated souls. But what of the ones that didn't know? Amnesia of the internal endowment to reserve a place in the fifth dimension for themselves, the ego to control, and a better life they shall never know. I welcome you, Dark One, into the lap of luxury full of my pain and woes. We all sold our souls to the devil, but the devil exists not. Negative energy we dub as evil creates the demons of whom we are fearful. Take the D from the demon, put it in front of the word evil, and now you have a personified devil. Our thoughts and experiences creates a creature only exists in the mind. Our desires are one creates a full feature ego that keeps the loyal self faith in the divine. Intellect. On a perfect understanding we will have of one another. I welcome you, my brother, my sister, my lover, to become one, to help me become one, before reality tears you from duality back in ether's imagination. I'm the ghost of lives past. Generations have descended just to gain these experiences. And I pray the human situation is critical, mind analytical, won't let me forget the fall of angels and demons into this third dimensional world. Is this planet yours? May I hide amongst the lost souls? Hide out for a bit, drink some liquor, smoke some weed, and step outside for a cigarette? Yeah, sure. Here's a social security card, you may live. Reincarnated to a kid and live and give back to the society. And I'm locked in borders, I smolder through the ash comes a horde of abstract thought. Who is not a ghost, a spirit, but just is. An enlightened individual, equality minus elitist political gold, the cynical flow, and pain and woes of shamanistic pagan rituals. We will resurrect the Messiah in all of us. It's time to trust our brothers and sisters. Unity of mind, consciousness, awareness on the rise. The yin-yang intertwined, masculine, feminine lovers intertwined. Spit worse than the chocolate points in my spine. Relentless but still find inner peace, so down the pace of my corrupted mind. Chemtrails, aspartame, fluoride, getting drunk and high. About the consequence, know why am I really here? But now I know is to help humanity steer into the right direction. For every single one of you, I feel affection. We're in the same situation, so erase the awkward moments, trying to walk around and get that bonus. You remember the Arcturians will be one of the group of interdimensional beings in the near future. The mass landings will help us souls really breathe. So raise your frequency if this is what you want to see. And don't try to break free from the shackles of captivity that we formed in our own mentality, because you and I, we are, and we've always been. Ia moakini azina waha. Ina kini umana tialoa. Ita wakatina tsamuma kia. Ufana ia niaka. Inza uakini atsia. Uma faya niaka. Ualeando ante kia. Uanamia